So today is Easter. That's obvious. I was trying to think, how do we know that today is Easter? Well, because it says so on the calendar, right? We can flip over the calendar of April and it says Easter right on that Sunday. And pretty obviously, if you're out in the stores these days, you can see all the rabbits and the Easter bunnies and the baskets and the candy and the flowers. And so we thought, okay, well, I guess it's Easter. Or if you've researched it a little bit, you might have discovered that Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. So you can kind of figure that out if you're real good. Mostly we look at the calendar, don't we? Okay. I'm going to use this mic now. Is that better? Okay. That means I've got to stand still. So, we look at Easter as a day. We can look at Easter as a day. But you know what? The truth is that Easter is not a day. Easter is not an event. Easter does not happen one time in the year. When we think that, what we do is we put incredible limitations on it. We make it only happen, for one thing, once a year. Perhaps the time or the circumstances makes it a smaller event. Or we might think, you know, it's something that happened 2,000 years ago, but doesn't really have anything to do with me. It is true that if we regard Easter as only an event, marking an occasion that happened in history when Jesus was resurrected, then we are placing huge limitations on the whole idea of Easter, on the concept of Easter. So what I'd like to do today is look at what happened, a little bit about what happened, what we know about, what people have written about. That was then. And then, you know, it's got to be useful. It's got to be meaningful now, right? Otherwise, why even talk about it? Just put it in the history book. So then we'll be looking at why Easter is more than just one day out of the year. Why Easter is more than an experience that one person had or that a group of people had many, many years ago. Last Sunday was Palm Sunday, and we were talking about how Jerusalem looked on that Sunday, how the city was swelled to 3 or 4 times its normal population, that there were huge crowds. There were people, for one thing, even having nothing to do with Jesus, there were many, many Jews who have returned to Jerusalem to celebrate their highest, most sacred festival of Passover. And then there were all the people that have heard about Jesus, that wanted to know, what was he saying? What's he doing? Is he going to do a miracle? Can he heal me? People just, surrounding him all the time. There were people that wanted to hear what he had to say. There were people that were impressed by what he was saying. There were a lot of people who were really doubtful about what he was saying and doing. And there was a whole lot of people who actually, you could say were antagonistic towards what he was doing, that did not agree with him, that saw him as a threat to the very fiber and fabric of life at that time. So what happens? The crucifixion happens, the body's taken down, put in the tomb. Everyone goes home. The show's over. People are muttering. I can just see them. I thought this was going to be the king of the Jews. I thought this person was important. I thought this person could do miracles. Doesn't look like it. Sometimes that happens. There's a big event, a lot of people come around to see, and then it doesn't, kind of fizzles. Well, we're out of here. Go. So a lot of people just leave town. Even some of the disciples go into hiding because they aren't sure if they really want to be associated with this person who was supposed to be this wonderful person and now is dead. But there's one person who waits. There's one person who stays. She's the last person at the site of the crucifixion, and she is the first person to be at the tomb before dawn, and that's Mary Magdalene. And so we wonder why. Why did she wait till the end? Why is she there, after Sabbath, as soon as she is able to return to the tomb? Jesus told his followers, her included, that he would rise, that he would be back, that he would come again. But she was so amazed and so dismayed that the body was not in the tomb. I don't think that that's really why she was there. I don't think she was really expecting that. But she's there because something in her told her that there was more to the story. That something else, I don't even know if she could put words on it, but there was a sense, an intuition, a strong feeling in her that this is where I need to be. And who is close by? when Mary calls out that the tomb is empty, who's close by? Peter and John. Peter represents faith. John represents love. And so when we think about this particular situation and who's there and the meaning of what's going on, we think, who was there? What was there? Faith and love accompanying Mary with her strong, intuitive knowing that something else was happening. And then she looks again in the empty tomb, and she sees two angels, messengers from God. That's what angels are symbols of, messengers from God. And it's so great. I mean, I just think looking again is such a great thing, because sometimes, we're faced with something that we don't like, or even something that we do like. We're faced with what appears before us, and then we walk away from it. We think, okay, now I know what's going on, and we walk away. But she doesn't. She looks into the darkness again, looks for something more, and she finds a message from God. And the angels say to her, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen." And of course, that is what has happened. And so for 40 days, Jesus appears in physical form. He eats with his disciples and his friends. He fishes with them. He prepares meals for them. They walk, they travel. Lots of things happen in this 40 days. So I would say probably that his disciples were probably surprised that he was back, maybe even shocked. And, I wonder if there's that feeling of relief. Phew, he didn't leave us. He's here. Do you ever have that feeling when something, you're really depending on someone to help you and guide you and tell you what to do, and they leave town or something like that, and then they come back and you're going, oh, good. Now I don't have to do the work, right? Now he's back. He can do the miracles. He can do the teaching. He can do the preaching. We're off the hook. But that's not what Jesus is teaching. Jesus spends these 40 days still teaching, being an example, being with his disciples, but his message is probably not what the disciples are expecting to hear. His message is, you need to follow your own Christ. I don't want you to rely on me. I want you to rely on the teachings. You don't need me here in physical form. You're okay by yourselves. Trust what I have taught you. Live what I have shown you. Sounds like a big order, doesn't it? They were probably hoping that he would continue on his ministry, that he would be the leader, and he's saying, no. The Christ that lives in me lives in you. You have the same abilities that I do. You, too, can perform miracles. You can be teachers. And he keeps driving this message home to him. Jesus said, "Love me and keep my word, and I will make a home in you." I thought, what a beautiful phrase. I will make a home in you. And this is the truth. Jesus, the Christ, does have a home in us. As heirs of God, the same way that Jesus was, we have that same Christ power and presence. Jesus says, keep my word, practice my teachings, and I will make a home in you. And this is what the disciples did. They traveled, they preached, they healed, they performed miracles. They turned from ordinary men into us. I don't want to just call them disciples, because then we think, well, then they're different from us, or apostles, and then they're different from us. They're not. We have the same ability that they did. That same Christ Spirit lives within us, brightly, beautifully, boldly. They lived the life knowing that God was with them, that they could trust on that presence and that power, that they could rely on it, that no matter where they went, God was, that the Christ lives on. So those were the events of the day. That's what happened. But what is the message for us today, here? Easter, as I said, is not an event. Easter is an eternal, perpetual experience. It's endless, perpetual. It's going on all the time. It's an example of what we can do. not something that just happened a long time ago. It's an example of what we can do here, today, right now, every moment, every day of the week, every day of our lives. So as heirs of God, we have the same resurrecting power that Jesus had. So to me, that's the scary part, right? I can relate to the disciples. That's scary. Not that we can't do any more with what we have. The scary part is that we can do more with what we have and who we are. What we want to remember is that, like Mary, faith and love, we want to remember that faith and love are with us all the time. Peter and John are with us in those first moments when we have an idea, I could do this. Maybe I could be a little bit braver and try this. Maybe I could give some power and some light to an idea that I've had for a long time, but I was too scared to try out. Remember your disciples. Remember faith and love. There's a beautiful quote from Psalms, and it says, if I rise on the wings of dawn and settle, if I rise on the wings of dawn and settle at the edge of the sea, you will be there to guide me and protect me. Doesn't matter where we are, doesn't matter what we're doing. The message is live that Christ self. And it's going to be different for every single one of us. Sometimes we can look at each other and think, oh, I could do what they're doing, but, and we are good examples to each other, but make sure you give it your flavor, because we are all individualized expressions of God. Each one is here to do something different from every other person. So how does resurrection look today? How does resurrection look in Victoria, British Columbia, 2004, you, me? How does it look today? When we have a doubt, when we stumble, and then we recover and we bring ourselves back to that centered place, that is a resurrection experience. When we release a belief that has been holding us back, and we remember that God is here, that God is now, that God will guide me and protect me, that is a resurrection moment. When we take any task and infuse more life into it, bring our Christ self out and uplift it, that is resurrection. Happens all the time. We don't want to discount what we might consider the small resurrection experiences. Perhaps even this morning, you thought, well, it's a nice day. I don't know if I really want to get dressed up and go to church. But there's a little part of you that said, you know what, this is where I need to be. And you listen to that. That is a resurrection experience. So we don't want to minimize the small ones. That's how we learn. That's how we learn a craft. That's how we learn an art. That's how we learn life, is by doing the little ones. Doing the little ones, we build up our muscles. And next thing you know, we're just doing the big ones before we even know. Retrospect, we look back and go, oh, I can't believe I did that. Life is full of experiences like that. That's the resurrection. I just want to read you a quote out of this book here, The Master Craft of Living by William Fisher. This story was related by Tolstoy, the great Russian writer, of a peasant in Crimea who was forced to stay at the plow on Easter Day. Unable to attend church and burn the candle there that was so important to one of his faith, he fastened a candle to the handle of his plow, and he kept it lighted while he turned the furrows. Then the work, which had seemed a great hardship, became a sacrament. It was made holy and joyous by the feeling of the presence of God. We too have that same ability. It's not about lighting a candle. It's about bringing our inner light into everything that we do, every situation that we meet, every person that we are interacting with.